Hey everybody, welcome to the Sharp Tongue Podcast. I'm your girl Jessimae Peluso. How you doing? Hope you're well. Hope you're living, loving, and learning. I just got off my weekend in Sacramento. Thank you to everybody who came out to the Sacramento Punchline, especially my girl Christina Evans, who was supposed to get a Patreon ticket, but I fucked it up. It's important we admit our faults and our flaws. So Christina Evans, we got you, girl. We got you. Next time, we're going to take care of your ass. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for everybody who came out to the show. It was a good time. I also was in New York. Have I talked to you guys? Yeah, I've talked to you guys since New York, right? With Carly, our girl pod. We did our first live show at the City Winery in New York City, December 10th. It was amazing. December? Oh, God, what fucking day is it? Is anyone else going through that? Where you don't know what day it is, you're getting your days wrong, your dates, everything's just getting fucked up. Am I the only one? I can't keep track of my days, months, or years at all. I've lost concept of time. That's what's happened to me in the interim of this pandemic and us kind of getting back to whatever the fuck this is, which is a new normal. Take the new normal and shove it up your ass. This isn't normal. We're still not normal. You know, everyone I know has fucked up some sort of date that they've had. Some sort of upcoming thing. Meetings, everything. It's every single person I know. So I really think that it's like some sort of pandemic dementia that we're experiencing. But I still appreciate you guys coming out in the pandemic to come see me live. Continue to do that. This weekend, I'm going to be in Rhode Island at the Comedy Connection, Friday and Saturday. The following weekend, I'm going to be at Laugh It Up in Poughkeepsie, New York, the 29th and 30th. This is my wide open tour. And then Carly and I are going to be in Texas, Austin, Texas. Our girl pod, Patreon exclusive podcast, will be in Austin, Texas at the Creek and the Cave. The Creep and the Cave. The Creek and the Cave in Austin, Texas, November 18th, 19th, and 20th with a live podcast recording on the 20th. Come see us live. It's going to be a fun time. I can't wait. And we're going to have a spring tour together. A whole bunch of spring dates will be available. My wide open tour is continued through the year. We're going to be, let's see, we just have December left. We're going to be in the Mall of America. The first weekend of December, I'm going to be at the House of Comedy in Plano, Texas, December 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. The 16th, 17th, and 18th, I'll be at the Mall of America, House of Comedy, Mall of America. And the 24th, I'll be at my sister's house crying because both my parents are dead and it's Christmas Eve and I'm alone. And then on New Year's Eve, I'm going to be at the Funny Bone, wrapping up my wide open tour in Carousel, at Carousel Mall in Syracuse, New York. New Year's Eve. Celebrate it with me. I'm going to be at the Funny Bone in the mall. We're going to have a great time. A bunch of guests are going to be coming and make it a party. So celebrate your New Year's Eve with me. And as always, check out the YouTube page if you guys want to watch the video for the podcast. And click like and subscribe. And I appreciate all your patronage. If you have time, leave us a review on Apple iTunes. I honestly, you guys you fucking rock. I have the coolest fans. And I have like a plethora, thank you for the word, of elderly fans. And I'm here for it. I'm here for the elderly fans. Every show I have, there's just a pocket of golden year puppies, and I'm here for them. I love that they show up and I learn from them. So thank you for all the elderly fans that I have. And for everybody else who's come to the shows, I appreciate your support. This week's guest is a comedian I've known for a while, and him and I knew each other back in New York City when I was hitting the pavement doing New York there. He is hilarious and has gone through some traumatic stuff, albeit he says that he feels like he didn't suffer too much, but you know, that's all relative. And I think we each, when we go through things, we all sort of have a survivor's guilt and have a guilt around us not suffering enough as other people do. So I think is just a wild way to view things because it is all relative and it's all about the perspective. And this guy is just hilarious, and I'm glad he made some time to talk to us. And it was nice to catch up with him because I've known him for years. I hope you guys enjoy this episode of A Grief Survival Guide. That's right. This is a Grief Survival Guide episode. I probably should have told you up top, but hey, surprise! You should know by the title now that it is a Am I going to survive getting through this intro? I can barely survive my mouth. Okay. This is Grief Survival Guide episode 12. Episode? Oh my God, I need a fucking nap. Episode 13 of the Grief Survival Guide miniseries with hilarious stand-up comedian, Mr. Kyle Grooms. Sharp Tongue Podcast. Beep, 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 beep. You're listening to the Sharp Tongue Podcast. I'm your host, Jessimae Peluso. It's a personal look. Well, it's not really a look because it's a podcast. I'm already fucking this up. This is kind of like a verbal comedy diary, a deep look into the crevices of my mind. It's gonna get dirty. You might cry. You'll probably laugh. Hopefully you'll laugh. The whole point is for you to laugh, but you also might cry. I talk about my family. I talk about farts. I talk about love, loss, comedy, how hard it is to make it in this biz. I'm a fucking professional. Each week it's something different. Sometimes I have a guest host. Sometimes it's going to be a movie companion episode. Sometimes I just ramble about the bullshit I dealt with the week before. You never know what you're going to get. It's raw, uncut, and funny. It's me. So please tell everybody what you just said to me.
Oh yeah, I just realized that you sent me a link at 2:29, but it went to my junk mail.
That's just so rude.
Yeah,
that's just how long we haven't seen each other.
Yeah.
I mean, I was trying to think about this. When was the last time we shared a stage?
A stage? I know we shared a microphone, but it was a podcast mic. I think the last time I did my podcast, but I don't know when the last stage we shared.
I was trying to think that. Was like, I mean, was it New York?
It could be. It must have been New York.
It must have been New York.
Yeah.
Where are you now? Did you have you fled in this quarantine? Have you shifted your living situation like so many people?
Nah, I moved out of New York in 2016. Man, I moved to Miami Beach.
Oh,
yeah, in 2016. So I've been here, man. And then after the COVID, everybody started flocking here. I'm sorry, I'm looking down. I just spilled wine all over my table.
Oh, that's alcohol abuse.
Yeah.
You want to clean? You got time? Clean it up if you want to clean it up and pour yourself another fresh one.
Yeah, right.
I mean, so, I'm not one to stand in between someone in their wine time. That's how I survived.
Jessimae Peluso on my show. I gotta have some wine, you know.
I usually enjoy wine too when I do like podcasts or any sort of live broadcast. Red wine is where it's at for me. But I don't know about you. Lately, and I've talked about this, I don't know if there's an alcohol allergy or something I've developed, or maybe it's just age, general. When you get older, it's harder to metabolize. I'll have like 1 or 2 glasses, and I'm shot. The next day, I'm shot. Then, like, so now I just take Benadryl.
Gotta drink plenty of water.
Gotta drink plenty of water. That's key. How has Miami been? Like, how was that shift for you?
It's been nice. Comedic wise, I feel like I'm playing in the kiddie pool. You know, like it's a lot of young, over. You know, they're like new people, like new comics. You know, so but you can do comedy every night, and I do have to go to New York once in a while just to get your fix. Yeah, just get my fix, man.
There is nothing like New York. I was just there a couple weekends ago with Carly Aquilino. We did a show together. My girl Carly, and man, that the streets there, you know, the energy in New York, I would make it similar to what it must be like to like take a hit of some drug that you're addicted to and just get that hit back, because it is such a magnetic city.
Yeah.
And to do comedy, like, was that the first city you did stand up in? Where did you first do stand up?
No, I first did stand up in Miami. Actually, my hometown in New Jersey. I did the first time I ever touched the mic and told a joke was in my hometown, Perth Amboy, New Jersey. I did a hair show, and my ex girlfriend worked at a salon, so they had a fashion show, and a hair show, and they wanted. I said I'll do jokes, and wrote 15 minutes of material and went up and crushed for 15 minutes and didn't. I didn't know any better. I'm like, I didn't know you're not supposed to do 15 minutes your first time on stage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you killed it. You're like, oh, this is easy. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. You're like, yeah. And then I bombed like a few times after that.
I did the same thing the first time I ever did stand up was in Boston, and I was 19 and I killed. It was like 5 minutes and I wrote material. I spent time writing it and I was like, oh, I got this. And then it was just like, bomb after bomb, just taking those punches to your body and your soul.
What was the situation? Was it like a comedy club or like a college comedy night or something?
It was. Are you familiar with Boston, the scene at all?
I know some of the scene. I know like some of the top of a Chinese restaurant that they talk about.
The ding ho.
Oh, is that what it is? Yeah, I've never worked there, but I know of the legend of the ding ho.
Oh God, the ding ho was the greatest, the hardest
really? So you've worked
ever.
There? Okay.
Yes. But this was the first show I ever did was at the tail end of me doing improv, which thank God I ended because improv in life is fun, but to watch improv for me, it's let them live their life. That's cute. I'm glad they got it, but I can't. It's a whole other muscle and skill set that I just can't do. I tried. It was a group improv thing and it worked out well, but then at the end, we were also able to like do stand up, and so we worked together to write our individual sets. And I did a show at the Cantab Lounge, which was a downstairs lounge of this bar in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And I was hooked from it. I don't know about you, like what it was like growing up for you, but as a kid, I was entertaining my sister and making her laugh. And that was like my greatest joy. What for you, like, how did you know that you were meant to do stand up? Was it something you always were good at as a kid?
Yeah, I was always funny. I was always witty. Like, in high school, people would gather around. We would have snap sessions. I would ruin my high school football team because I was always telling jokes and making people laugh. But I had friends who wanted to be comedians. That was their thing. They would go to New York at night and go to places. But I didn't think it was something I could do, standing on stage with people, in a room full of strangers and make them laugh. I was like, nah. And especially since Richard Pryor and Eddie Murphy were like the people, it seems like they came from outer space,
It does seem like that. I think of like one of my favorites was always Richard Pryor. I just loved how he was such a bleeding heart on stage. When I think about the spectrum of comedy, obviously including women as well, but growing up, there were only a handful of them to aspire to, but they were great, but for me, I think of the spectrum of comedy, like you got Richard Pryor on one end, and then you have Seinfeld, and then everybody in between, as far as like the styles of comedy. I feel like Seinfeld is a technically masterful comedian, and Richard Pryor was the blood, sweat, and tears, the rock and roll, the real soul of comedy. Who were some people besides?
But I think that Pryor? Also, I think there was technique also in telling that too. Like to kind of hide the technique in that realness.
That's a good point. Yeah. That's a really good point. Which is similar to how you are on stage, I think. I feel like from what it's been a while. I watched your special, Brain
really?
Humor. It was great. It was awesome. It was so good to see you doing stand up and on the tail end of something we're going to get into and talk about. But I think you were always that sort of comedian as well. Like you're raw in your delivery, but there's technique underneath it, and we know who you are. You talk about.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Sometimes you see comedians and you still don't know who they are.
Wow.
They're funny and you're laughing at them, but you don't know what makes them bleed or cry.
Oh, wow.
You don't know what really gets under their skin. And who were some influences for you? Because I think we're all influenced by something in someone,
Yeah.
especially in the art world, to be able to create. It comes from something. For you, who was that?
My first comedically, like Richard Pryor, and I think like contemporaries, Chris Rock really moves me a lot. I love how I don't know, he in that era of the '90s, and he was hip hop, and I would see him sometimes. I remember going to the Palladium, and I saw him in, I think it was a red Corvette, or I don't remember what kind of car, but it was like a sports car. And he looked at me he had still had his Jerry curl, and I was like, "Oh my God, that's Chris Rock," you know. And,
I can't imagine him in a Jerry curl.
he had a curl like it was, or something like, yeah. And also I used to work TV graphics, and I worked in New York for a few years as a graphic designer for news, and I worked at NBC, and I used to work at 30 Rock. And I
Wow.
remember going up in the elevator with Chris Rock once, and he was dressed like a green leprechaun or something. And, I'm just sitting there trying to act like I don't know it's him, but, it's fucking Chris Rock. You know what I mean? Yeah.
He's a interesting performer who's really evolved. His comedy's evolved as his life has evolved, and he puts
Yeah.
all that on stage.
Yeah.
He puts it going through divorce and everything on stage, and I feel like, to my point earlier, that's why I like your comedy and always liked your comedy in New
Mm,
York and watching you perform, because there was levity to it. And and now that you've been through
yeah.
this traumatic experience in your life, I'm wondering how your comedy and everything has changed. But before we get into all that, this this is a grief survival guide episode. I do these survival guides for grief
Mhm.
because I lost my mom almost a year ago now.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that,
Yeah,
man.
she
I
passed
met your
away.
mother. Oh,
Yeah,
man.
you did.
Hey.
You met Nancy, my
Yeah, I
little
sure
little
did.
teeny. um,
Yeah.
and I found reprieve in talking about it, and have sort of evolved into these episodes of talking about what you do to your life and what you implement to your life in order to not just survive the grief, but to come out and thrive on the other side. And and I think grief culturally has been limited to death, which I don't think is really realistic. But I think we experience grief on many levels, in many levels of survival. And for you you being open to talk about this, you had a near fatal seized you into surgery.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I had a seizure. Never had anything wrong with me health wise. I worked out constantly.
Yeah.
I'm a plant based diet. I was actually in a vegan restaurant when I had the seizure.
Oh my god. See, this is a
Yeah,
commercial to eat meat,
yeah,
everybody.
yeah. Yeah, I had a Big Mac attack.
The Impossible Burger doesn't seem so
Yeah,
impossible now.
yeah.
Oh, I didn't know it was in a public place.
Yeah, it was in a vegan restaurant. I
Now, can
sat
I
there.
ask a real personal question?
Mhm.
And whatever you're willing to talk about, I'm following your lead. But as far as having a seizure, when you're actually seizing, do you have any sort of wits about you? Do you have your faculties together, or is it
Yeah,
a complete
totally.
dead zone?
No, 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 no. What happened, I started seizing, and then your brain starts to try to assess itself. I was like, I knew my heart wasn't hurting, so I was like, it's not a heart attack. I'm good. I didn't think I was having a stroke because who's people that stroke are unhealthy. You know what I mean? And then I didn't know what else after that. Like I must be dying. You know what I mean? It's like I'll just sit here and breathe, and if I could focus on my breathing, I know I'm alive. That's how I knew. And then once I focused on that, I was able to center myself, and my body came back to center, and I was sweating profusely, and my right arm was dead, and my speech started to go like I was starting. I was just talking a little. It was just a little harder for me to talk. And then the paramedics came, and I was able to walk to the gurney and get in the ambulance, and they took me to the hospital. I took my vegan food to go.
You should. That shit's expensive.
Yeah, it's very expensive, and the stuff in the hospital will kill you.
Yeah.
The food they
Tempeh
give
ain't
you.
cheap.
Yeah. So.
And you were with your daughters and your girlfriend
my
at the time.
daughters and my girlfriend at the time, but my wife, and we they were with me, and they came to the hospital.
And she's a nurse, correct?
Yeah, she's a nurse.
Did she know what was going on at the time? Did she?
No, she didn't know. She didn't know. She was screaming for help too. She's like, ah. She didn't realize she was a nurse. She's like, there's no one in this restaurant more qualified than you, ma'am.
Don't you got like a little toolkit or like a travel nurse toolkit?
Yeah.
What does all the information lead?
Yeah, right.
Is there a doctor or a nurse in the house? Like,
you're
in my house. You're literally in my house.
Yeah. So
now, from the time of you having the seizure to getting into the hospital, are you in? Walk me through that. Are you in the ambulance? Are you taking an actual ambulance ride, or did you?
I'm in the ambulance, and they
what were you
told
thinking?
my wife to follow.
When you're in the ambulance ride alone, what were thoughts going through your head?
I really didn't know what was happening to me, and I just thought I didn't want to end up like Keith Robinson. I'm sorry, I love Keith, man, but that's all I can think about. Keith Robinson. Because he has the arm, and because I'm always messing with Keith, and it'll be a good boxing match, though. I'll tell you that.
That hit me hard.
Southpaw against Southpaw.
Did you have any thoughts when you're in that ambulance ride? First, did you know you had a seizure, or were you not sure what happened?
I wasn't sure what happened. And I also thought of my daughters too, because I was like, I got to stay here to be, alive, bro. I can't die right now. My kids can't be without a father. All the wolves out there, they'll be vulnerable,
Well, that's a good point. Like, did you automatically have that sort of conversation about death, and did you make any peace with it? Or like you said, was it something you were not willing to even accept?
No, death didn't. I didn't think I was ready to die yet. You never think. I don't know. You just don't think you're gonna die. I didn't think I was gonna. I didn't get scared until after I went to my first checkup, and the doctor described what they'd done to me, like putting drill holes in my head and then cutting and just all that stuff. It was like, what you did? What?
Where was my girlfriend? And
and I signed away for this. It was like.
So when you got to the hospital, did they do surgery immediately?
No. They luckily it was a Friday, so luckily they did have a surgeon on deck, because normally I would have had to wait, till Monday or whatever, and they could assess me. And he said I was stable enough that they scheduled the surgery for, I think, next Wednesday or Thursday. So from Friday, so I basically had 6 days. But in those days, I kind of started to deteriorate, like, because, it was a pool of blood, they said, over here on the left lobe. But it affects your speech and your, hold on, someone's at the door.
Your Uber Eats is there. Is it your wine delivery?
Yeah, right. Oh, it's my daughters. It was crazy hat day today at school.
Oh, I miss those days. I miss those fun school days.
Say hi.
Hi. How are you?
Okay. Say bye.
Oh.
Okay, so the other one. Here's Mia.
Hey, Mia. Hey. Oh my, they are just precious.
Crazy hat day.
That's adorable.
Okay, now.
Watch it. And it's okay. I don't mind any background noise. It's it's totally fine. Sometimes there's dogs barking and drills happening. Really? Yeah, gunshots, and I'm like, oh, that's just Carl. That's the neighborhood crackhead just trying to get his. It's fine. Yeah, you had you were saying the front temporal lobe. You were hemorrhaging.
Hemorrhaging.
Cavernoma.
Cavernoma.
Yes.
Yeah.
We like brain stuff on this podcast.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they Yeah, they diagnosed me, and they said I'd need surgery. And after, they yeah, it was they started giving me like physical therapy, and I couldn't move my hand, like pick it up, and like with a pen. I couldn't even sign my signature. I had to make an X.
How did that feel as someone who's been able to live your life and be independent and have success in a career up until this point? What were your
Mm.
thoughts in the
Oh,
interim of understanding what happened to you, having the seizure, waiting for the day you get surgery, which I can't even imagine what your brain was going through at that
mm.
point, just the anticipation. Like, what were you thinking when you were realizing the detriment of your situation?
Yeah, I always said, and I said this is a joke, like my whole career. Because I said if I ever get hit in the head or lose my memory or something, my career is over. Because I don't
You said
write
that up to
jokes.
that point.
Yeah,
You've
up to that
always
point, like I've always made a joke, like haha, if I because comic. I don't know how you work, but I don't write sets out. It's all in my head and what I'm feeling that week, and then I jot notes,
I'm the same.
titles of jokes, and maybe
Yep.
index cards with titles of jokes. But if you picked it up, it just looks like chicken scratch.
Yep,
It's usually
same.
just a reminder. But I have it all in my brain. My
Yep.
and this is my notebook. But and to be able to hold a mic, I don't know what I was thinking. What I'm gonna do? Sell pencils in the train station? You get
Just a whole
it?
one ice cream cone at a time.
Yeah.
You're like the slowest ice cream man ever.
Yeah. Ooh, I don't. I
You
hate.
want
I don't.
sprinkles?
Yeah. I hate to even joke, man. It was rude.
I had a
Yeah.
similar scenario, not nearly as traumatic as yours, but I was diagnosed with official ADD and I had a brain scan. And the question I asked the doctor was, what if my broken brain is the thing that makes me funny? What if,
Oh
in the
wow.
attempt to fix everything, we take away what the magic is?
Oh yeah. Right. Then you become like like
Boring?
boring as Jessimae
Yeah.
Palooza.
I'm just
Yeah.
rescuing like injured mice and I'm growing
Yeah.
organic arugula in my yard. Like, what am I doing at that point?
Eating the organic and yeah, I get it. There was an
Did
episode of The
you?
Twilight Zone like that.
Yeah, exactly. That's my worst nightmare, being
Yeah,
ordinary.
being basic as hell, right?
I can understand that. Did you have any, if any, fears about, being a father of two young girls and, having a girlfriend and a wife and someone to, these beautiful people to rely on you? What were thoughts going through your mind about that?
Oh yeah, that definitely made me. I think, you know, it didn't even hit. It hit me after the whole incident. I came home from the hospital and everything, and I sat on my couch and just had a good hot cry, like
A hot cry?
where was heat coming out your face?
I've never I'm a woman.
Yeah,
I'm around bitches that cry all the time. I've never heard it called.
because your face be warm.
It's so accurate.
Yeah.
Oh, good for you though to let that out. You
Yeah.
need to have a hot cry. I
Yeah.
wonder if it relieved any of the hemorrhage in your brain. I
Yeah,
wonder if that helped a
right.
little.
Yeah, it took away the bitch ass in me. Okay. Nah,
Did you
yeah,
do
man.
any stand up in between the seizure and surgery?
No, 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 not at all. My friend Razor, he's a comic. He came to the hospital and was telling jokes, but I couldn't even. I was trying to uh, formulate a sentence. That I couldn't keep a thought together. Like having this conversation wouldn't work. I would be like, yeah, and yeah. It was it
That
was
must have been
awful.
terrifying.
Yeah, man. I come from, I come from a mother who's optimistic, and so I kind of was optimistic. So I never lost. Like, okay, I'm gonna be okay. I'm gonna be all right. You
That's a
know.
good move. Colin
Yeah.
Powell speaks about perpetual optimism, and it's
Hmm.
it's necessity and usefulness in life. I'm the same way. Both of my
Yeah,
parents were eternally optimistic. So,
yeah, yeah,
and we talk about mindset and how important mindset is throughout life, and especially in scenarios where you're going through trauma and having to grieve something and having to figure out a survival mode. You've got to have some sort of optimism, even if it's blind.
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
that's a survival tactic. What was during
And,
this
and and
process?
99% of the times it works out. It pays to be
Right.
optimistic. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because when
Well,
does
yeah,
your
maybe
worst fear
90.
really come to fruition? What'd you say?
I said maybe 90. I don't know.
Yeah, it's probably
I
like
said
5%.
99.
We're
Yeah,
so
99. Yeah,
optimistic about the optimism that
yeah.
everyone else is like, guys, it's like
This
2%.
is 2%.
It's milk.
Yeah. 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 Mm.
What what was some of the now you go through surgery. Surgery was about 6-7 hours, I think.
It was 9. It was a
Ooh.
9-hour surgery. Yeah.
And did you have any sort of experiences while you were under? I would imagine you're under.
Nah, propofol. And you know what? When they put you on propofol, that's the stuff that put Michael Jackson to sleep. It's the same thing that he used to go to sleep on.
Now this
It's
feels like someone's trying to
it's
do some shit.
it's amazing. Like, and I said, you know what? I'm gonna fight it. I don't even remember fighting it. Do you get what I'm saying? It was like,
You are so optimistic.
like, I'm gonna fight this. Just I'm gonna wait. Then I woke up and I was like, oh man. And I had the whole surgery. Didn't even have a headache. Nothing.
And when you come out of surgery, do you remember your first couple thoughts, your moment? What was the first thing that you can remember from awakening from that?
The doctor asked you a question. They always ask you, do you know where you are? This is a question they always ask you in the hospital, your whole stay there. Do you know where you are? Who's the president? What year is it? You know what I mean? And he said, do you know where you are? And I was like, in the hospital, Memorial Regional. And he said, what year is it? I said, 1969.
You were fucking with him?
Yeah, no, I wasn't. It's just like I was in such a fog. And that was the year I was born, So maybe it was like I was born again. You don't know. You know what I mean? It's
yeah.
Like, it's like, but yeah, I said 1960. Then he was like, again, I was like, oh no, 2019. Like, that's when I corrected it. But immediately I already started to recover.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what hospital was this? Memorial?
Yeah, Hollywood Memorial. Hollywood Regional?
Yep.
Memorial Regional.
Yes,
I should remember the
yes.
name. They saved my life. But, Memorial Regional, yeah.
What has been on the other side of this, physical or, existential? What has been the biggest change for you?
The biggest
maybe how you live your life, your outlook.
Yeah, just to be
your
even
gait.
more. Yeah, just to be even more. Like I'm on the right side. I think taking care of myself, keeping myself healthy has made my recovery easier. Maybe and I don't know, just trying to live as long as I can, man. And the next year, COVID came, and I'm like, man, I stayed alive for this, But I'm grateful, I'm very grateful.
That's hilarious. You should do that on stage. Tell me you do that on stage.
Yeah.
That's funny. You're like, and now this? Like, what?
But I'm okay. I want to be here to see the Martians land,
Yes.
That's what I want to see.
I want to see it too. I want to see all of that. Seems like all the fun things they've been trying to keep secret are coming to fruition.
Yeah, right.
It's like get your popcorn out and sit
it's
back and watch all
better.
the craziness.
Next season's gonna be even better.
We have some questions from fans. Would you like to answer some?
Sure.
Okay. I don't know. This maybe is something JP Cower asks, "Where's Ken?"
Ken's somewhere around here. Hey, Melissa, me and Amaya, where's Ken?
Oh, you got a pet?
He's where? No, Ken's my daughter's doll that they make me take when I'm on the road.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
So I'm not alone, and they, so I start taking
that traveling doll.
Yeah.
That I have seen you post about that. I didn't know his name was Ken. That's a
Yeah,
real
it's a little
interesting
Ken
name.
doll. Yeah, it's a little Ken doll, little scruffy doll. You know.
And you take pictures of it. You take him with you, and you keep track of him, and it's a way to
Yeah,
like.
and I start doing little sketches. Here he is, right here. Say hi, Ken. Hey.
What's up, Ken?
What's happening?
He looks like every influencer in LA.
This is
He looks like his name is
every,
Lance.
Lance, right? Hi guys. Listen, hey guys. Yeah.
Ken is gender neutral. I love Ken. Rhinobuilt.com.au.
Good
I like.
vibes only.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, good vibes only. That's a total Ken
Good
shirt for
vibes
sure.
only. Yeah.
This person made their Instagram name their website. Pretty smart. Rhinobuilt.com.au. Do you like fennel in a salad?
Fennel. If I knew what it was, if it's not meat, it's fennel. What is fennel?
Fennel's a root. It kind of has a licorice taste, and it's clear. It almost looks like a onion.
Fennel.
Have you ever had fennel? It's pretty good.
No, if I have, I don't know I had it.
Well, you
I
might want to
could have
check
possibly had.
check some fennel out.
I don't know if they sell fennel in my neighborhood. Is there any where they sell fennel at? Hey baby, where can I get some fennel? I'm sorry.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Unky Brian asks, what's the difference between a kitten and a hockey player?
The difference between a kitten and a hockey player.
Oh, is this like one of those questions that are
joke.
jokes we're supposed to know?
Yeah, it sounds like a dirty joke too.
It does sound like a dirty joke. It sounds like there's going to be
Like
a puss comment.
Like you don't beat a kitten or something, or a hockey player. I don't know.
Yeah, Unky Brian, come correct next time with like a real question. Unicorn Jess, what do you do to stay inspired outside of stand up? That's a good question, especially now.
Oh, outside of stand up?
Yeah, what are things that you like? What do you do for fun? I was thinking about this. I think about this often because our jobs are so fun, but I'm sure you experience.
I live on Miami Beach, and I have a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old. So my fun is parks and recreation. My friends come to town. They're like, "Yo, what's popping? What's popping?" I'm like, Flamingo Park. They have a very nice swing set, and
that's so pure, though.
Yeah, I could get you on a list at Miami Children's Museum.
We skipped the line.
Yeah,
I want to go to the butterfly conservatory.
Yeah, exactly. That's my life.
They're like, you want to go to the strip club? You're like, no, you want to do book club?
Yeah, there's a library. Yeah.
How about Peppa Pig?
For real.
What for you? My question, just thinking about what you're talking about now. What are some like challenges being the father of girls in today's generation with social media and cell phones that you've experienced, if any?
Yeah, the phone is they want it, even and it's hard to tell them not to be on the phone because I know that phone is my left hand always. It's becoming like that, and I don't want them before they get natural experiences to be in the phone. Yeah, I was in nature. Like when I was a kid, my mother sent me to live with my grandparents in Georgia on a farm, so I got my nature.
What kind of farm?
It was like they had pigs, chickens, dogs. They had everything, corn, like you name it. It was like living in a Whole Foods. Like
it must have been so fun as a kid.
Oh, it was amazing. It was amazing. I actually have been writing stories, and I want to either make an animated or a book, and it's called Pumpkin Town. And it's a story. It's stories of my life, my childhood. I had a dog named Penciltail who I used to go on these little adventures with. And yeah,
that's awesome.
And I tell my kids these stories so they could, know about nature, respect, animals.
What is something, having two young, just magical girls? What is something that scares you for them?
Just like some days
as a siren goes off in the background.
Yeah. Some days my daughters they'll have such an innocent look of not knowing. And I'm like, oh my God, someone could totally take advantage of them. because they'll be like, and I'll be like it'll scare me. You get what I'm saying?
Yes, I always, um, I admire men, girl dads, especially in this generation, just because I know what it was like to grow up in our generation,
Mhm.
being analog children. I just, I don't have kids, so I can only come from my female perspective, but I also just wonder what men go through being the fathers of girls. I just imagine the
Oh,
stress and the consideration to be on a different level.
oh, and
It's got to be hard.
I did put them in jujitsu.
Yes,
They were taking what was it, taekwondo
yes,
before, but that was before the pandemic, and then the school shut down after the pandemic. But they could throw a two piece.
I love that.
My daughter's a two piece. You
That's
know
awesome. That's what I've
they
been talking about. Like
they dip and pivot. You know.
remind me not to mess with your girls.
I might be the Venus and Serena's daddy if
Yes.
make my
Uh,
daughters fighters now.
yes, I think that is the way to do it. I mean, they'll always be precious, but if you empower them, then
Yeah,
they can be precious and survive all of
yeah,
the craziness
yeah.
that they're
I
going
actually
to
didn't know
experience.
it was so crazy out there for like until like women start really talking about it. I was like, really? Like, I'm not blind, but you don't really like
It is
people I
wild.
roll with don't move like that, and they don't move like that in the open. Like them creepy dude, they don't move like that
Right.
around. You know?
And it's such a, you know, growing up how I grew up, and all the things I experienced, just gosh, I've talked about it in my stand up, but the first dick I ever saw, sorry, penis, was a man who flashed me in the street in my neighborhood. And, there were just men and bosses that were inappropriate and just being
Mm.
grabbed and things being said. And it happens so often that women almost become desensitized to it. And that's the real problem, and so it is important to talk about it to realize, wait, this isn't normal.
I'm like,
I
man,
don't,
I could have been getting away with all that these years.
yeah, too late. Too late, baby. Now it's too late.
The Cub Scouts ruined me.
Unicorn Chess is another question for you. What did you want to be when you were little? If it wasn't a stand up, what might else you have been otherwise?
What I was doing before I did stand up, I was an artist. I was working in TV graphics, doing graphic design. I used to be a graffiti artist in high school. And
What?
then, yeah, then I said, I'm going to turn this into, I loved it. I used to spray paint Seek, Seek. My crew was the mob, masters of bombing. I was all city, New Jersey, top to bottom, destroying all lines. Don't get it. Yeah,
Yes.
but yeah, I used to do graffiti, man. And I've been art my whole life. Like when in career day, they said, they gave you two choices, and my choice was either art director or like doing some art job or like a forest ranger, like being out in the forest with like
Oh, that sounds
nature and
great.
I
I
don't
would
know
just
if
be
I
out there smoking a joint, talking to chipmunks.
in a Yogi Bear uniform. I don't
Yeah.
know, man. My social life would have been awful.
You say that, but have you ever had a conversation with a squirrel? They're fun.
Yeah, squirrel. But have you ever tried to lay with a squirrel? They're not so
Well,
much fun.
not recently, but let me tell
Yeah,
you, the dating scene's a
yeah,
little dire,
yeah.
so I'm
My
not
dating
against
scene.
having a squirrel friend.
A squirrel friend. That's hilarious. You made a
What
pun.
just touching on the grief survival mode of it all. What was like out of this whole experience for you? Maybe a lesson you learned, or something that a perspective that was changed. Other than you saying like, I want to be here, I want to be alive, and I know I have more life to live. Was there any other lesson that you learned through all of this?
Hmm. I learned my wife was a soldier. She
Mm.
was there with me. My children, I think they grew a little bit. Like when they came to visit me in the hospital, I seemed like they were in their eyes. They seemed a little older.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, because we had all been through something together, and they even bring it up now sometimes. Remember when? And I'm like, yeah, I do. But they saw it. They're good.
Yeah.
Mhm.
in your girls, I imagine, besides keeping you busy, they're probably very inspiring because kids are
Yeah.
just my
Yeah.
sister has 2 kids, and I'm still blown. They say things and teach me things, and I'm like, "How do
Yeah.
you know so much about," they just
Yeah.
focus on, like, ladybugs, and they know everything
Yeah.
about ladybugs, and I don't things I've never even thought about before.
Yeah, like that's what I feel like. I feel like it's not me to even tell them, it's more to guide them and then to show them where they could get information because they're gonna do with it and know what to do with it. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like I just have to show it to them and expose them, but then and let them get down. Because I remember, and it always reminds me of their age now. I think about it constantly when I was their age now, and I see where I saw the world, and I'm like,
That's
the,
wild, like,
the confidence I had, and where, even with adults, and I knew when adults are like, "Are you kidding me? He bugging," like like, like I had my own opinion about things.
yeah, I never thought about that because I don't have kids, but that's so interesting that as a father, you could sort of live through their eyes because you've lived through that time in their
Yeah,
life.
yeah, yeah.
And it gives you, like, almost an appreciation for where they're at, but also, like, a
Mhm.
little nostalgia trip where you're
Yeah,
remembering what you were thinking at that age and what you went through at that
exactly.
age. That's
Exactly, and what I
trippy.
was exposed to too, you
Yeah, it's like a
know?
time travel.
Like, we were given so much so young. Like, I was taught how to get to school the first day of kindergarten, and then after that, I had to get there myself. Well, I might walk with a group of kids, but, you know, basically my parents weren't there, no adults. You had to get there and come. I remember deciding on my own to take a different route home. I would never let my daughters go to school right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, our parents were bold back in the day, right?
Yeah. My
Just
mother made
go
me
go
take
ahead,
this,
get the bus.
but the thing is, my mother made me take the city bus at 9. Like 9 years old, I was taking the city bus. I couldn't imagine doing it.
I've talked about that, like, living in New York,
Yeah,
the upbringing is so different. There are
yeah,
young kids that are traversing the city alone, and
on the subway.
it's
Yeah,
natural.
you'd be
It's
like, "Is that
common.
child abuse?" Like, yeah,
They're just on there with a backpack reading the news like the New Yorker. What is this 9-year-old doing?
yeah. Stock report. Yeah, but the capacity is what I'm saying. Like the capacity, so I remember that they're not completely morons. You get what I'm saying? Like
Yes.
they know. They have the capacity to do what we tell them. Do you get what I mean?
Yep,
Like there's kids in
absolutely.
Siberia, driving tractors.
Yeah, and there's kids that are, like, heavily armed in the Middle East.
Oh yeah, that's
It's
true.
there's kids around the world are taking on so much, responsibility in different areas that we can't even imagine putting our children in. And our the way we covered our children here, I wonder if it inhibits them from really experiencing,
Yeah.
uh, life in just a different perspective, you know?
Yeah.
Um, I feel like
I think of that too. When I'm like, how would people in other parts handle this situation with their kids? Is this just part of American culture because we feel so, you
yes.
know,
And I think it
we try
is.
to,
I mean, we've
yeah,
both traveled a lot for stand up, and I've been all over the world and just seeing the way different people and cultures raise their children. We really do coddle our
yeah,
kids. And
and
I'm not saying it's right or wrong.
yeah,
I don't have kids. I have 3 dogs. That equals like 1 difficult child, but for the most part, I think that we do
mm,
coddle them a little too much. And, like you sending your daughters to jujitsu. What was it? Jujitsu?
taekwondo.
Taekwondo? That's what
She
I
didn't
like.
like jujitsu too much because she had to get on top of this big man, and like she didn't feel because it's groundwork, and she didn't
Yeah.
feel comfortable being on a
Taekwondo's where
man
it's
that's
at.
not her. Yeah,
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 I
you
just
get
think like that
fly,
mindset of
get
doing
kicked.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
instead of like playing with Barbie, she's like doing, a combination kick. I'm into
yeah,
that.
yeah.
I think
Word.
that's smart. I wish we had more time, but normally I
Oh,
have a full hour, but I have to do some more after this, some more podcasting.
oh wow.
I do want to ask you before we go. I asked this of my grief survival guide guests. If what could you say to somebody who might be in your scenario, or maybe somebody who has a worse prognosis, anything that, facing a surgery or, something where you're not necessarily dealing with death, but there is a grief aspect to what's going on. What could you say to them in preparation, or maybe just some words of encouragement to help them get through?
It's so like, since this has happened, so many people have been reaching out to me about their brain surgeries, and it's been like I've almost felt a guilt because I kind of didn't suffer much, and some people have it where it's like inoperable, or in other places where they still lost part of themselves, and I don't know. Like what Little Duval song say? If you breathe and you achieving. Those, all I can say is a cliche, You know what I mean? That's all because I feel I got so lucky. I got lucky, and what can I say to someone who's suffering? You get what I mean?
Yep.
Like, keep your head up, hang in there. Like, it's like, I don't
The
know.
irony of keeping your head up. I like that.
Don't lose your head.
Yeah, don't keep your head up.
Yeah. I really don't know, Jesse, because I feel so lucky that I didn't even have pain, so it's just kind of.
Well, I think that's a beautiful thing in of itself. Even having a simple response like that is going to be helpful to other people to maybe not, maybe take on some of that perpetual optimism, and know that even if you're in a scenario where you experience, although you didn't, like you said, have a lot of pain or go through a scenario where other people are like experiencing a lot of loss, that's not to downplay what you went through and that it wasn't kind of traumatic for you. Maybe there's like a survivor's guilt,
yeah.
where you're like, oh man, should I have suffered more? We're so
No,
fucked up as humans.
Yeah, right. It's like,
like I should suffer harder, right?
It's like, but I'm glad I did, because
me too.
I don't know who wants to suffer, man.
I remember reading about it and I was like, oh man, what? I can't even imagine what this guy is going through. And I was going through my own stuff at the same time. And I honestly, I'm glad. I obviously, I'm not gonna be like, oh man, I wish it was worse for you. But it's important. You're an important person, first of all, because you bring joy to people with your work. But secondly, those two girls right there, you're raising two beautiful girls, and we need girls to be empowered and to know that they can achieve things. Those are people that we want in society. So you stay kicking and you stay alive.
Yes,
because they need you.
What city are you in, Jesse?
I'm in Los Angeles, but I'm gonna be in LA, or Florida, Miami. I think either January or February.
Oh, really?
So we should go to the parks and recreations. No, I'm gonna go to the the conservatory. Where do you have where can
I got Miami Children's Museum.
I'll go to the museum with you.
Yeah.
But I would love to see you when I'm there. And if you're ever in LA, let me know.
Are you working? Are you working while you're in town?
I should be. I think I'm going to be filming for Netflix. So I'll be working and then maybe trying to just get up and do some shows.
Oh, nice.
Around town, yeah.
Sweet.
But I appreciate you making time and talking with us and, getting personal. Yeah, and now I know I don't have to stress about being a vegan,
But you should. You're not plant-based at all?
I'm mainly plant-based, and then I'm picky about, any sort of meat or fish that I eat. I don't eat. I eat pretty relatively healthy, and I'm a little obsessive about it. But I'm more pushing out meat. I go through waves. I was a vegetarian for like 10 years and then a pescatarian, just eating fish. And then now I'm dabbling, I'm a vegan and a meat eater.
Yeah.
I'm all of it, but I'm eating more vegetables now. It makes me feel clearer.
Diet neutral.
Yes, exactly. Please don't label me. Please don't label me or my food. I eat everything for now.
Yeah. But you look great. If you don't mind. Yeah, but you look
Thank
great.
you. I appreciate that. Let Brad Pitt know, okay? If you see him in
All right,
Miami,
yeah, I'm gonna call him. As soon as we
will you
get
put
off
in a
this
good word
call.
for your girl,
Yeah,
please?
I'm gonna hit his inbox on Instagram.
Yeah, send him a DM on MySpace and let him know that you said that I'm looking fresh.
Yeah.
Well, it was good to talk to you, Kyle. I appreciate
Thank
it.
you, Jesse. Good seeing
You have
you.
anything you want to promote? Your
Promote.
special brain humor?
Well, brain humor. You could. There's a link on my Instagram, a link on my website. You could go to Brain Humor. It's also on Amazon Prime and
Yep, and
other
we'll put the
things.
link in the show notes as
Yeah.
well for you guys to go and purchase it.
Yeah,
Buy
for
it.
real.
It's only $9.99. Buy that.
Is it? I thought it was $3.99 with $6.
That's if you rent it. We got to tell them to buy it.
Oh, to buy it was $6,
Yeah.
but we'll get it.
Yeah,
All right,
you guys
thank you,
get it.
Jessimae.
Thank you so much, Kyle. You take care.
Thank you for introducing me to your fans too.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
You take
Bye.
care.
Bye.
Bye.
Now. Bye.